The words hit me like a slap across the face. No extra food. My daughter-in-law Jessica said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. She slid a glass of water across the white tablecloth toward me. Just plain water. Nothing else. Before I continue this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit like buttons and subscribe if you believe that families should respect people for who they are, not for what they have. Derek only changed his behavior when he discovered his mother was wealthy, which showed his respect was conditional and shallow. Meanwhile, her entire family was about to feast on the biggest lobsters I had ever seen. These were not regular lobsters. These were the kind that probably cost more than what some people make in a week. Huge red shells glistening under the fancy restaurant lights. Melted butter in small silver bowls. Lemon wedges arranged perfectly on the side. And there I sat, with my glass of water. Like I was invisible. Jessica did not even try to hide it. She looked right at me with that fake smile she always wore when she wanted to hurt someone but still look like the good guy. That smile that never reached her eyes. That smile that said she was better than me. But that was not even the worst part. The worst part was watching my son Derek just nod along. Like what she said made perfect sense. Like it was totally normal to invite your mother to dinner and then refuse to feed her. You need to understand your position, Mom. That is what Derek said to me. My own son. The boy I raised alone after his father walked out on us. The boy I worked 3 jobs to support. The boy I sacrificed everything for. He could not even look me in the eye when he said it. I stayed quiet. Not because I had nothing to say. I had plenty to say. But something inside me told me to wait. To watch. To see just how far they would go. So I just smiled a little and said one word. Noted. Jessica blinked. I think she expected me to cry. Maybe she thought I would make a scene. Maybe she wanted me to beg. But I gave her nothing. Just that one word. Noted. Let me tell you how I ended up here. How I found myself sitting in one of the fanciest restaurants in the entire city, watching my own family eat expensive food while I had nothing but tap water. This did not start tonight. This started years ago when I decided that being a mother meant giving up everything. And boy did I give up everything. Derek is my only child. I raised him by myself from the time he was 6 years old. His father left us for a younger woman and never looked back. Never sent child support. Never called on birthdays. Just vanished like we never existed. So I worked. I worked more than any person should have to work. I cleaned houses during the day. I waited tables at night. I cooked in restaurant kitchens on weekends. All so Derek could have what I never had. A good education. Nice clothes. A chance at a better life. I paid for every single semester of his college. Every textbook. Every fee. When he changed his major the first time, I supported him. When he changed it again, I supported him again. When he met Jessica and told me she was the love of his life, I smiled and welcomed her into our family. Even when Jessica started looking at me like I was dirt on her expensive shoes. Even when she started making little comments about my clothes, my apartment, my life. Even when she made it clear that she thought Derek could do better than having a mother like me. I stayed quiet. I stayed kind. I stayed hopeful. I never asked for much in return. Just respect. Just to be treated like his mother. Like a human being. But apparently that was asking for too much. The invitation to this dinner came exactly 1 week ago. Derek called me on the phone, which was strange because these days he mostly just sends short text messages. The kind that say busy or talk later. Nothing personal. Nothing warm. But that day his voice sounded different. Almost kind. He said that he and Jessica wanted to take me to dinner. To reconnect, he said. We feel like we have been distant, Mom. We want to fix things. I believed him. God help me, I actually believed him. I got ready for that dinner like it was the most important event of my life. I wore my best dress. A soft gray one that I had bought years ago for a special occasion. Nothing fancy. I have never been someone who likes attention. I fixed my hair nicely. Put on a little makeup. I wanted to look good for my son. I wanted to show him that even at 62 years old, I was still his mother. Still someone worth being proud of. When I arrived at the restaurant, I knew immediately that this place was expensive. The kind of place where people who have real money go to eat. Crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. White tablecloths so crisp they looked like they had never been used. Waiters in black suits moving silently between tables. Derek and Jessica were already there. And so were Jessica's parents. For people sitting at a table clearly set for 5. They all looked up when I walked in. The greetings were cold. Air kisses that did not touch my skin. Jessica smelled like perfume that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was wearing a cream-colored dress that looked like it came straight from a fashion magazine. Diamonds sparkled at her ears and throat. "You are late, Patricia." That is what she called me. Patricia, not Mom. She has never called me Mom. Just Patricia, like we were co-workers or something. Like there was no family connection between us at all. I apologized and said the traffic was terrible. I took the only empty seat at the table. It was at the corner, almost like they wanted to hide me from view. The restaurant was incredible. Everything looked expensive. The other customers looked like important people. Business owners. Politicians. People who belonged in places like this. I wondered how Derek could afford this. His job paid well, but not this well. A waiter came over with menus. Big leather menus with no prices listed. That is always a bad sign. That means everything costs way too much. Jessica did not even open her menu. She just snapped her fingers. Actually snapped her fingers at the waiter like he was a dog. 5 lobster thermidors. The large ones. And bring your best bottle of white wine. For lobsters. Derek corrected her quietly. He glanced at me from the corner of his eye. Jessica looked confused for a second. Then she followed his gaze to me. And then she smiled. That terrible smile. "Oh, right." She said it like she had just remembered I existed. "For lobsters, then." She turned to the waiter and spoke louder, making sure everyone could hear. "We do not provide extra food. Just water for her." The waiter looked uncomfortable. He looked at me, waiting for me to order something. But before I could say anything, Derek jumped in. "Mom already ate before she came. Right, Mom?" It was not a question. It was an order disguised as a question. I felt something crack inside my chest. It was not dramatic. There was no music playing. Time did not slow down. Just a quiet breaking feeling somewhere deep inside where hope used to live. "Of course." I said it calmly. "Just water is fine." Jessica looked satisfied. She leaned back in her chair like she had won something. The waiter nodded quickly and walked away, probably glad to escape the tension at our table. Jessica's parents did not even seem to notice what just happened. They were too busy looking around the restaurant and commenting on how exclusive everything was. And so the dinner began. Well, their dinner. I just had my water. Clear and cold and silent. Just like I was supposed to be. The lobsters arrived about 10 minutes later. For massive plates with steam rising from them. The smell of butter and garlic filled the air around our table. The waiter placed them carefully in front of Jessica, Derek, and Jessica's parents. Jessica's parents had not said a single word to me since I arrived. Not hello. Not how are you. Nothing. It was like I was not even there. Like I was part of the furniture. Jessica was the first one to crack open her lobster shell. The sound echoed in the weird silence at our table. She pulled out a big piece of white meat, dipped it in butter, and put it in her mouth slowly. She closed her eyes like she was tasting something from heaven. Everything about Jessica was always so dramatic. So performative. Like she was always on stage. Exquisite. She said it quietly, dabbing her mouth with her napkin. Absolutely exquisite. This place never disappoints. Jessica's mother nodded enthusiastically. It is the best restaurant in the city. So exclusive. So refined. Derek started eating too. But I noticed he would not look at me. He kept his eyes on his plate like breaking apart that lobster was the most important thing in the world. Like if he looked up, he might have to face what he was doing. My son. The boy I raised to be brave and kind. He had become a coward. I sat there with my hands in my lap, just watching. My glass of water sat untouched in front of me. I did not even want to drink it. This was not about being thirsty. This was about dignity. And in that moment, I felt like they had stripped every bit of dignity away from me. Jessica's father finally spoke. He was a heavy man with a gray beard and an expression that said he thought he was better than everyone else. Derek, your mother is very quiet. Has she always been like this? He talked about me like I was not sitting right there. Like I was a topic of conversation instead of a real person just 3 feet away. Derek swallowed his food before answering. Mom has always been simple. Humble. You know, she comes from a different generation. Humble. Jessica repeated the word like it tasted bad in her mouth. Yes, definitely humble. I wanted to scream at them. I wanted to tell them that humble did not mean worthless. That simple did not mean stupid. But something inside me said to wait. To let them keep talking. To let them dig their own graves deeper and deeper. Jessica's mother poured herself more wine. The bottle was already half empty and dinner had just started. These must be such difficult times for people your age, Patricia. With no stable income. Not enough savings. It is such a shame that your generation did not know how to plan better for the future. There it was. The first direct insult. Dressed up as concern, but it was an insult. She was saying I was poor. That I had failed at life. That I was a burden. Mom gets by just fine. Derek said it, but his voice was weak. Like he did not really believe it himself. Of course. Jessica said quickly. But that smile said something different. We all do what we can with what we have. Although some of us have more than others. Silence fell over the table. A thick, heavy silence that felt like it could crush me. Nobody defended me. Nobody said, hey, that was rude. Nobody. Jessica kept eating. Between bites, she started talking about her life. Her accomplishments. Everything she had achieved. Like she needed to constantly remind everyone how much better she was than me. We just closed on the new condo. She announced it proudly, looking at her parents. 3 bedrooms. Park view. 12th floor. It cost $450,000, but Derek and I decided it was worth the investment. Her father raised his wine glass. Let us toast to that. To success. To the future. Everyone raised their glasses. Everyone except me. I did not have a glass. Just my water, which seemed to mock me with how clear it was. And the best part, Jessica continued. We will finally have the space we always wanted. No interruptions. No unexpected visits. No having to worry about people who just show up unannounced. She looked directly at me when she said it. Right into my eyes. She wanted me to know she was talking about me. She was telling me, without actually saying it, that I was no longer welcome in their lives. Derek coughed uncomfortably. Jessica, I do not think that is necessary. Necessary what? She interrupted him with fake sweetness. I am just sharing our good news. Is there a problem with that? No problem, Derek replied, looking down at his plate again. And that is when I finally understood. My son was not just a coward. He was an accomplice. He had chosen his side a long time ago. And that side did not include me. The waiter came back to clear some empty plates. He glanced at me like he was wondering why I was still sitting there with nothing to eat. I felt sorry for him. He had probably seen 1,000 awkward family dinners in this restaurant, but this one had to be really bad. Would you like dessert? He asked in his professional voice. Of course. Jessica answered immediately. Bring your best dessert for 4 people. 4 again, not 5. 4. The waiter nodded and walked away. I was still there like a ghost. Like someone who had been erased but who still took up space in the chair for some cruel reason. Jessica's mother leaned forward and looked at me with fake curiosity. Patricia dear, what do you do for work currently? Or are you already retired? It was a trap. I knew it right away. If I said I was retired, they would think I was just an old, useless woman. If I said I worked, they would probably make fun of whatever job I had. But before I could answer, Jessica spoke for me. Patricia has done a little bit of everything. Cleaning. Cooking. That sort of thing. Honest work, of course. Nothing to be ashamed of. The way she said honest work made it sound like the opposite. It sounded like she was looking down on me. Like she was saying, thank God I never had to lower myself to do that kind of work. Admirable, Jessica's father said, but his tone was condescending. Hard work should always be respected. Though of course we made sure Jessica had every opportunity so she would not have to go through that. I nodded slowly. I said nothing. I just nodded. Because every word that came out of their mouths was another reason to wait. To let them keep talking. To let them feel safe and superior. Derek finally looked at me. For just a second I saw something in his eyes. Guilt maybe.
Shame.
I was not sure. But whatever it was disappeared quickly.
Mom. He said it softly.
Are you okay? You are very quiet. I am perfectly fine. I replied calmly. I am just observing. Jessica let out a short laugh. Observing? How interesting. She turned to her mother. See, I told you she was quiet. The desserts arrived. 4 plates of fancy tiramisu with actual gold flakes on top. Because even the dessert had to be over the top and expensive. While they ate their desserts, I sat there motionless. My water glass still untouched. Condensation had formed a little puddle around the base. I watched the drops slide down the glass slowly. Like tears, I refused to cry. I would not give them that satisfaction. Jessica wiped her mouth and sighed happily. This is definitely my favorite restaurant. The quality is unmatched. Of course it is not for everyone's budget. Another dig at me. Another knife in my back disguised as casual conversation. I wondered how many more insults would come before this nightmare ended. Her father ordered an expensive cognac. Derek ordered whiskey. The women ordered more wine. I still had my water. Nobody offered me anything else. Not even a coffee. It was like they had all agreed that I did not deserve basic courtesy.
Derek.
Jessica's father said, lighting a cigar. Your wife told us you are considering that promotion at the company. That would mean more responsibilities, right? Derek nodded and sat up straighter. Yes, sir. I would be regional manager. A raise of almost $40,000 a year. Impressive. The man replied, blowing smoke slowly. That is what happens when you marry well. The right connections open doors. My brother is a partner at that firm. One word from me, and that position is yours. There it was. The truth. Derek's success was not because of his talent or his hard work. It was because of Jessica's last name. Her family's connections. Everything I had worked for, everything I had sacrificed so Derek could get an education and build a career, had been overshadowed by a convenient marriage to the right family. We are very grateful, Jessica said, taking Derek's hand on the table. Family is the most important thing. Knowing how to surround yourself with the right people makes all the difference. She looked at me when she said it. The message was clear. I was not the right person. I was the past. She was the future. Jessica's mother joined the conversation. It is so important to set boundaries too, especially when there are people who can become a burden. We cannot let misunderstood feelings of obligation stop us from moving forward. Exactly. Jessica agreed, squeezing Derek's hand. That is why we have decided to make some changes. Necessary changes for our well-being and for Emma's.
Emma.
My 5-year-old granddaughter. The little girl I babysat twice a week when they needed time to themselves. The girl who called me Grandma Trish and drew pictures for me with crayons. Were they going to take her away from me too? What kind of changes? I asked. It was the first time I had spoken in almost half an hour. Jessica looked surprised, like she had forgotten I could talk. Well, Patricia, since you are asking, we have decided it is better for Emma to spend time with people who can add value to her life. Quality education. Enriching experiences. Things that some people just cannot offer. I felt the knife twist deeper in my chest. She was telling me I was not good enough for my own granddaughter. That my love, my time, my bedtime stories were worthless compared to what they considered valuable. Derek said nothing. He just drank his whiskey and avoided looking at me. I understand. I said simply, keeping my voice calm and neutral. Anything else I should know? Jessica exchanged a look with her parents. There was something else. Of course there was something else. This dinner was not about reconnecting. It was a planned attack.
Well,
she began, playing with her wine glass. We also want to talk about expectations. Derek and I have built a life of a certain standard. A life that requires maintaining certain appearances. And frankly, Patricia, some of your appearances have been a bit embarrassing. Embarrassing, I repeated. I felt anger start to simmer under my skin, but I kept my face calm. Do not take it the wrong way. Jessica's mother chimed in with fake sweetness. It is just that when you came to Emma's birthday party last month with that old dress and that grocery store cake, well, it made a certain impression on our guests. The old dress. The grocery store cake. I had worked 2 extra shifts to buy that cake because I knew Emma loved strawberries. I had worn my best dress, the same gray one I was wearing right now, because it was the only decent thing I owned. And still it had not been enough. The guests asked who you were. Jessica continued. It was awkward having to explain that you were Derek's mother. Some people even thought you were hired help. Silence. Heavy, crushing silence. And what is your point? I asked, keeping my tone firm. Jessica leaned forward. My point, Patricia, is that maybe it is better if you keep your distance. At least at public events. At least when important people are around. We do not want them to think that Derek comes from, well, from poverty. I finished the sentence for her.
From a working-class family.
From a mother who broke her back to give him everything. Derek finally spoke.
Mom, do not take it like that.
They're just trying to what, Derek? I interrupted, looking right at him. Erase me. Make me disappear because I do not fit into your perfect world. He looked down. It is not that. It is just that things are different now. We have to think about our future. About Emma. We cannot have a poor mother ruining your image. I finished his sentence for him. Jessica's father tapped the table gently. Come on, come on. No need to be dramatic. Nobody is saying you should disappear. Just that you should be more aware. That you understand your position in this new family dynamic. My position. That word echoed in my head. My position. Like I was an employee who needed to know her place. Like I was a chess piece they could move around on a board they controlled. Jessica leaned back in her chair, looking satisfied. Besides, Patricia, let us be honest.
What can you really offer this family?
Derek is already established. We can give Emma everything she needs.
You.
Well, you just do not have the resources or the status or the connections. I only have love, I said quietly. She let out a short, cruel laugh. Love does not pay for private schools, Patricia. Love does not open doors in society. Love does not get you a seat at the right table. The irony was not lost on me. I was sitting at their table right now, but I had no place. No plate. No voice. Just a glass of water and an endless amount of humiliation being served like it was part of the meal. The waiter came back with the check. He placed it carefully near Derek in a leather folder. My son opened it, looked at the total, and pulled out his credit card without blinking. $780. He muttered. Reasonable for 5 people. 5 people. They had counted me in the bill, even though I had not eaten a single thing. They had paid for my humiliation. For my empty chair. For my silence. Derek signed the receipt and put his card away. Jessica touched up her lipstick using a small mirror from her designer purse. Her parents chatted about a trip to France they were planning. Everything was so normal for them. Like they had just had a pleasant family dinner instead of a torture session.
Well,
Jessica said, standing up and smoothing her dress. I think it is time to go. We have a busy day tomorrow. Meeting with the interior designer at 9. Everyone started getting up. Derek helped his mother-in-law with her coat. Jessica's father left a big tip on the table, $40 in cash, like he wanted to show off even to the waiters. I stayed in my seat. I did not move. Something in me refused to get up yet. Like if I stood up, I would be accepting everything that had happened. I would be saying it was okay.
Mom.
Derek said, looking at me impatiently. Let us go. We have to drop Jessica's parents at their house. In a moment. I replied calmly. I need to use the restroom first. Jessica rolled her eyes. Seriously.
Fine.
Take your purse. We will meet you outside. They wanted to get rid of me quickly. Like my presence was contaminating. Like the longer I stayed with them, the more risk there was of someone important seeing us together. I stood up slowly, picked up my simple cloth purse, and walked toward the restrooms. I felt their eyes on my back. They probably thought I was pathetic. An old defeated woman running to the bathroom to cry in private. But I did not go to the bathroom. I walked down the long hallway toward the kitchen instead. It was a route I knew very well. Very well indeed. Because I had walked down that hallway hundreds of times over the last 12 years. Ever since I bought this restaurant. Yes, this restaurant was mine. Every table, every crystal chandelier, every painting on the walls.
Mine.
The business I had built from nothing after years of hard work, careful saving, and smart investments. The restaurant that had made me a successful business owner, even though nobody in my family knew about it because I had decided to keep it a secret. Derek knew I worked in restaurants, but he always assumed it was as a waitress or a cook. I never told him the truth. I never told him I owned 3 restaurants in the city, including this one, the most exclusive of all. I never mentioned my bank account with over $2 million in it. I never talked about the properties I owned.
Why?
Because I wanted to see who my son really was, who he would become without the influence of my money. I wanted to know if he would love me and respect me for who I was, not for what I had. And tonight I had finally gotten my answer. I walked into the kitchen. The heat hit me immediately. The sound of pans sizzling, knives hitting cutting boards, orders being called out in Spanish and English. My kitchen, my kingdom. Marcus, my head chef and general manager, saw me walk in. His face lit up. He was a tall man in his 50s with silver hair pulled back in a ponytail and a spotless white chef coat. He had worked with me since the day I opened this place. Mrs. Patricia, he said, walking over quickly. He kept his voice low so the rest of the staff would not hear. I saw you at table 22. I was going to come say hello, but I noticed something seemed wrong. Is everything okay? I smiled. A small, genuine smile. The first one all night. Marcus, everything is perfectly fine. Better than you can imagine. He looked confused. But I saw you sitting there with no food. Just water. And those people with you. They are family. My son and his wife. I replied. And tonight they have given me the most valuable gift they could ever give me. What gift, ma'am? Clarity. Marcus did not understand, but he nodded respectfully. He knew I had my reasons for everything. In 12 years, he had never questioned my decisions. What do you need me to do? He asked. In a few minutes, I am going to go back out there. And when I do, I want you to come out of the kitchen. I want you to walk up to me in front of all of them. And I want you to call me what you always call me. His eyes lit up with understanding. Mrs. Patricia, owner of this establishment.
Exactly.
A smile spread across Marcus's face. He had met Derek once, years ago, when my son came to visit me at work. It had been brief and awkward. Derek had looked around the restaurant with disgust, like he was embarrassed that his mother worked there. He never came back. It will be my pleasure,
Marcus said.
There was satisfaction in his eyes. I left the kitchen and walked back into the dining room. Table 22 was already cleared. The waiter was wiping it down, removing all evidence of what had happened. But not from my memory. Never from my memory. I looked around the restaurant. The soft lighting. The elegant customers enjoying their meals. The quiet hum of polite conversation. The piano music playing from hidden speakers. I had built all of this. With my own hands. With my mind. With my determination. And tonight, finally, I was going to claim my place. I walked out of the restaurant through the main entrance. The cold night air hit my face. Derek, Jessica, and her parents were standing next to a shiny black car parked at the curb. The valet had brought their vehicle and Jessica was giving him instructions. They saw me come out. Derek raised his hand in a quick wave. Well, Mom, thanks for coming. It was educational. Very educational. Jessica agreed with that fake smile on her face. I hope you understood everything we talked about tonight. That you understand your position. Oh, I understood perfectly. I replied calmly. The question is, do you understand yours? Jessica frowned.
Excuse me.
Nothing, I said, smiling slightly. Just thinking out loud. Jessica's father opened the car door. Well, it has been interesting to finally meet you, Patricia. Derek talks about you so little, but now I understand why. That was it. That was the final straw. Not to make me angry,
Not to make me cry.
but to confirm that what I was about to do was absolutely necessary. Before you go, I said, stopping them, there is something I forgot to mention. Derek sighed impatiently. Mom, it is late. Whatever it is can wait.
No.
I replied firmly. It cannot wait. In fact, I think this is the perfect time. Let us go back inside for just a moment. Jessica huffed with frustration.
Seriously.
You are going to make a scene now. Not a scene, I said, walking back toward the restaurant entrance. Just a clarification.
I will wait for you inside.
I did not wait for their answer. I just walked back in, knowing their curiosity would bring them back. And I was right. I heard their footsteps behind me, their whispers of confusion and irritation. I walked straight to table 22, which had already been reset for the next customers. I stood next to it, waiting. Derek was the first to reach me. Mom, what are you doing? You are embarrassing us. Embarrassing you, I repeated softly. How interesting that you used those words. Tell me, Derek, how do you think I felt for the last 2 hours? Derek opened his mouth to answer, but Jessica cut him off. Look, Patricia, I do not know what you are trying to do, but we have had enough drama for one night. If you want to play the victim, do it somewhere else. Jessica's parents had caught up too, looking at me with irritation and confusion. Her father checked his watch dramatically. We really have to go. We have important commitments tomorrow. This will not take long, I said, keeping my voice calm. I just want to make sure we all understood what happened here tonight. What happened? Jessica said with exasperation. Was a family dinner where necessary boundaries were set. Boundaries that should have been set a long time ago, frankly. Boundaries, I repeated, tasting the word. How interesting. Like the boundary of not giving me food because I am not valuable enough to share your table. Derek blushed. Mom, I already explained that. You explained nothing. I interrupted him. For the first time all night my voice had an edge to it. You sat me at a table, gave me water, and let me watch all of you eat lobster while you told me I do not deserve a place in this family. You are exaggerating, Jessica muttered, crossing her arms. Exaggerating, I said, looking directly at her. Tell me, Jessica, what do you call it when you invite someone to dinner and give them no food? What do you call it when you deliberately humiliate someone in front of others? What do you call it when you tell a grandmother she is not good enough to see her own grandchild? The silence that followed was tense. Some customers at nearby tables had started looking over. The waiter who had served us had stopped nearby, clearly uncomfortable. Jessica's mother stepped forward. Look, dear, I understand your feelings are hurt, but sometimes the truth hurts. And the truth is Derek has risen above his origins. He has built something better. And that requires leaving certain attachments behind. Attachments, I repeated. That is what you call a mother who sacrificed everything for her son. Nobody asked you to sacrifice. Jessica snapped suddenly. There was real anger in her voice now. Nobody forced you to be a single mother. Nobody forced you to work low-class jobs. Those were your decisions. And frankly, you cannot expect Derek to carry your poverty forever. There it was. The truth without any filter. Raw and cruel. Derek said nothing. He did not defend me. He just stared at the floor like a child waiting for a storm to pass. I understand, I said finally.
So, let me ask you something.
How did you like this restaurant? The question caught them off guard. Jessica frowned.
What?
The restaurant, I repeated, making a wide gesture. Did you like it? Did you find it high quality? Exclusive enough for you? Jessica exchanged a confused look with Derek. It is excellent. You know that. It is one of the best in the city. Why are you asking? Just curious, I replied. Because earlier you said I only worked low-class jobs.
Cleaning. Cooking.
That sort of thing. And you are right. I worked cleaning houses for years. I worked in kitchens for even more years.
What are you getting at?
Jessica's father asked, losing patience. I am getting at the fact that I did work in kitchens. I continued. Including the kitchen of this restaurant. In fact, I spent many hours in that kitchen. Developing the menu. training the staff, making sure every dish that went out was perfect. Derek looked up confused. What are you talking about? I am talking about my work, Derek. My low-class job, as Jessica called it. I am talking about the long hours I spent building something from nothing. Something that is apparently good enough for all of you. Jessica let out a nervous laugh. Patricia, I do not think you understand. This restaurant is owned by.
Wait. Her face changed.
You work here. You are a cook here. I worked here. I corrected her. But not as a cook. At that exact moment, like it was perfectly timed, Marcus came out of the kitchen. He was wearing his pristine chef uniform, his posture straight, his expression professional but with a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. He walked directly toward us. Every eye in the restaurant seemed to follow him. He stopped in front of me and gave a slight bow. Mrs. Patricia. He said it loud and clear. Pardon the interruption. There is a matter in the office that requires your attention. Could you please review it before you leave for the night? The silence was absolute. Complete. Derek blinked. Mrs. Patricia. Marcus glanced at him briefly before turning his attention back to me. Yes. Mrs. Patricia. The owner of this establishment. Jessica's jaw literally dropped. Her eyes went wide.
What?
Owner. Owner. Marcus repeated like he was explaining something to a child. The person who signs my paycheck every month. The person who built this place 12 years ago and turned it into what it is today. Jessica's father took a step back like he had been physically hit. His wife brought a hand to her mouth. Derek stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Mom.
You. Yes.
I said simply.
Me.
The woman who apparently has no resources. The woman who has no status. The woman who embarrasses her family with her old dresses and grocery store cakes. That woman owns the restaurant where you all just spent $780 to humiliate me. Jessica tried to speak, but no words came out. She opened and closed her mouth several times. Impossible. She finally managed to say, "This is."
How?
I repeated. With those low-class jobs you look down on so much. With every dollar I saved for years. With smart investments. With hard work. With sacrifice. Everything that apparently means nothing to you. Marcus stood next to me like a silent guardian. Some of the kitchen staff had come out and were watching from a distance. The customers at nearby tables were not even trying to hide their interest anymore. This had become a show. But you said you worked in restaurants. Derek stammered. You said you waited tables. That you cooked. And I did. I confirmed. I did all of that while I was building my business. While I was learning every aspect of this industry. While I was investing every penny I earned into growing something worthwhile. Something that you apparently consider good enough for your standards. Jessica's father found his voice. If you are so successful, why did you never say so? Why keep it a secret? Because I wanted to know. I replied, looking him straight in the eye. Who my son really was without the influence of my money. I wanted to see if he would love me for who I am, not for what I have. And tonight I got my answer. Derek turned pale. Mom, I did not know. Exactly. I interrupted. You did not know. And without knowing, you treated me like trash. You sat me at this table, denied me food, humiliated me in front of your in-laws, and told me I should understand my position. Jessica finally got her voice back, though it was shaking. Wait. This does not make sense. If you have so much money, why do you live in that tiny apartment? Why do you wear simple clothes? Why did you bring a grocery store cake to Emma's birthday? Because money does not define who I am. I answered calmly. I live modestly because I choose to. I wear simple clothes because I am comfortable that way. And I bought that cake because my granddaughter loves strawberries and that cake had the freshest strawberries I could find. I do not need to prove my worth to anyone with designer labels or luxury cars. But you could have told us. Derek insisted. There was desperation in his voice now. You could have told us you had all this. For what? I asked. I let the question hang in the air. So you would treat me well. So you would respect me. Respect is not bought, Derek. It is earned. Or it should be earned simply by virtue of me being your mother. Marcus cleared his throat gently. Mrs. Patricia, would you like me to call security if these people are making you uncomfortable? That will not be necessary, Marcus, I said, touching his arm briefly. They're my family. Or, at least they were. Those last words hit like a physical blow. I saw the impact on Derek's face. The tears that started forming in his eyes. Mom, please, he said, taking a step toward me. I did not. We did not know. If we had known. If you had known what? I interrupted. You would have treated me differently. You would have served me lobster instead of water. You would have spoken to me with respect instead of contempt. That is exactly why I never told you. Because a son's love for his mother should not depend on her bank account. Jessica had turned very pale. But there was something else in her expression now. Something calculating. I could see the wheels turning in her head, reevaluating everything. Patricia,
she said.
Her voice had completely changed tone. I think there has been a terrible misunderstanding. We never wanted.
No.
I cut her off sharply. Do not do that. Do not try to rewrite what happened 20 minutes ago. You said exactly what you meant to say. You did exactly what you meant to do. And now you have to live with the consequences. Her father cleared his throat uncomfortably. Well, this is certainly unexpected. Jessica dear, maybe we should discuss this in private. As a family. As a family. I repeated. I could not help a bitter laugh. Half an hour ago you told me I was not family. That I was a burden. That I was an embarrassment. That I should keep my distance. Jessica's mother tried to step in with her fake sweet voice. Patricia dear, we all say things when we are tired or stressed. Surely you can forgive a little. A little what? I interrupted. A little mistake. A little humiliation. You left me without food at a family dinner. You treated me like I was invisible. You told me I was not good enough for my own granddaughter. That is not a little mistake. It is a revelation of character. The entire restaurant seemed to be holding its breath. Waiters had stopped moving. Customers were pretending to look at their plates, but were clearly listening to every word. This moment had become bigger than me. Bigger than them. It had become a public lesson. Derek took another step toward me. Now tears were streaming down his face. Mom, please. You are right. Everything you said is true. I was a coward. I was cruel. I let Jessica treat you like that, and I did nothing to stop her. But I can change. We can fix this. You can change. I asked softly. Derek, you are 33 years old. You are not a child anymore. You are a grown man who deliberately chose to humiliate his own mother to impress his wife and her parents. That is not something you fix with an apology. Then what do you want?
He asked.
Real desperation in his voice. Tell me what I have to do to fix this. I looked at my son. At this man I had raised with so much love and sacrifice. I saw the 6-year-old boy who cried in my arms after his father left. I saw the proud teenager on his high school graduation day. I saw the nervous young man at his wedding. And now I saw the man who had betrayed me in the deepest way possible. I do not know if you can fix this. I said, honestly.
I do not know if I even want you to try.
Jessica, recovering some composure, tried a different approach. Look, Patricia, obviously there was a lack of communication. If you had just told us from the beginning that you had resources, none of this would have happened.
Exactly.
I said, pointing at her. None of this would have happened if you knew I had money. But it did happen because you thought I did not. And that tells you everything you need to know about yourself. Her face flushed. You cannot just. I interrupted her, my voice rising slightly. This is my restaurant, Jessica. You are the one who came here. You are the one who sat at my table, ate my food, and used my establishment as a stage to humiliate me. And now you have the nerve to tell me I am out of line. Marcus stepped forward. Mrs. Patricia, if I may suggest, perhaps it would be better to continue this conversation in your office. The customers are starting to get concerned. I looked around. He was right. Some customers looked uncomfortable. Others looked fascinated. But this was a business. And business required a certain level of professionalism, no matter how justified my anger was. You are right, Marcus, I said. But there will be no conversation in my office. Everything that needed to be said has been said. I turned back to Derek. I am going to tell you something, son. And I want you to listen closely because it will probably be the last thing I say to you for a very long time. The money I have, the businesses I built, the properties I own. I did it all thinking about your future. Thinking about leaving you something when I am gone. Thinking about making sure your daughter, my granddaughter, would have opportunities. Derek was crying openly now.
Mom.
But tonight you taught me something valuable. I continued. You taught me that giving money to someone who does not respect you is not generosity. It is weakness. You taught me that the real legacy is not what you leave in a bank account, but the values you pass on. And clearly I failed at that. You did not fail, he said through his tears. I failed. I ruined everything. Yes, you did. I confirmed. The words were like knives. But do you know what the worst part is, Derek? It is not that you treated me poorly tonight. It is that you probably would have kept doing it if you had not found out I have money. That is the part that hurts the most. Jessica tried to get closer. Patricia, I understand you are angry, but let us be reasonable. We are family.
We can get past this. Family.
I repeated, looking at her coldly. Family does not humiliate. Family does not look down on each other. Family does not leave you with a glass of water while everyone else feasts in front of you. You do not know what family means, Jessica. And sadly my son seems to have forgotten too. Jessica's father, who had been relatively quiet, finally spoke in a tone that tried to sound authoritative. Look, ma'am, I understand you feel offended, but you are making an unnecessary scene. We are respectable people. We do not deserve to be publicly humiliated this way. I turned to him slowly. Something in my expression must have made him take a step back. Publicly humiliated. I repeated. My voice was dangerously calm. Interesting choice of words. Tell me, what exactly did you all do to me half an hour ago? What would you call leaving someone without food at a family dinner? Telling her she needs to know her place. Implying she is too poor and embarrassing to be around her own family. He did not answer. He just clenched his jaw and looked away. That is what I thought. I said. The humiliation only counts when it happens to you, right? When I suffer it, it is just setting necessary boundaries. Jessica's mother touched her husband's arm. Honey, maybe we should go. This is clearly not going anywhere. Oh no, I said quickly. Not yet. Because there is something else I need to say, and you are all going to hear it. Marcus was still by my side. Some of my staff had moved closer, forming a quiet semicircle behind me. These were people who knew me, who had worked with me for years, who knew who I really was. Their loyalty in this moment meant more than I could express. Jessica, I said, looking her straight in the eye. You said I could not offer anything of value to this family, that I had no resources, status, or connections. Let me correct you on that. She looked at me with a mix of fear and resentment. I own 3 restaurants in the city. I continued. This is the most exclusive, but the other 2 are also very successful. I own commercial properties in 2 different states. I have investments in technology, real estate, and international markets. My net worth is over $2 million. And I build it all with those low-class jobs you look down on so much. The silence was absolute. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking, the distant sounds from the kitchen, my own heartbeat in my ears. As for connections, I continued. Look around this restaurant. See that man in the corner booth. He is the mayor of this city. He dines here twice a month. The woman by the window. She is a state judge. The group at the large table are executives from the biggest corporation in the state. All of them know me. All of them respect me. Not because I have money, but because I built something valuable and I did it with integrity. Derek had collapsed into a chair, his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. But do you know what is the most ironic part of all this, Jessica? I said, leaning slightly toward her. That promotion Derek is waiting for. The one your uncle is supposedly going to secure for him. I could make one phone call and guarantee it in 5 minutes. The CEO of that company dines here every Friday. I have known him for 8 years. But I never did it because I believed Derek should earn things for himself, just like I did. Jessica looked dizzy. She held onto the back of a chair for balance. And as for status, I continued, addressing all of them. Let me explain something about real status. It is not about how much money you have or what clothes you wear or what car you drive. It is about how you treat people when you think they have nothing to offer you. It is about integrity, compassion, respect. And by that measure, all of you are absolutely bankrupt. Jessica's mother let out a choked sound like she had been slapped. Tonight you tested my character, I said. My voice was softer now, but no less intense. You humiliated me to see what I would do. If I would cry. If I would beg. If I would leave quietly. But what you did not expect was this. You did not expect me to have power. And now that you know I have it, you want to take everything back. You want to pretend nothing happened.
You want us to be family again.
I paused, letting my words sink in. But family does not work that way. I continued. You cannot turn it on and off like a light switch to suit your needs. You cannot mistreat someone and then expect everything to go back to normal when you find out that person has something you want. Derek lifted his head. Mom, please. I will do anything. Anything.
Give me a chance to prove I can change.
I looked at my son, this broken man in front of me. I felt something complicated in my chest. Love mixed with disappointment. Sadness mixed with anger. The maternal instinct telling me to forgive him fighting against the woman who knew she deserved better.
Derek,
I said gently. The problem is not whether you can change. The problem is that you should not need a dramatic revelation to treat your own mother well. The problem is that your respect for me depended on what you thought I could or could not offer you. I was blind.
He sobbed.
Jessica had me blind. But that is no excuse. I should have been stronger. I should have defended you. Jessica took a step back, outraged. Now you are blaming me. You agreed with everything. You said those things too.
Why?
Derek shouted, turning on her for the first time with anger in his voice. Because I always want to please you.
To keep the peace.
To avoid your anger. But look what it cost me. Look what I did trying to make happy someone who does not even know what respect means. Jessica looked like he had hit her.
How dare you?
How dare I? He shot back, getting to his feet. You organized this dinner. You insisted on inviting Mom. And now I know why. You wanted to humiliate her. You wanted to put her in her place like you said. This was planned from the beginning. Jessica's face turned red. I did not. That is not. It is exactly that. I interrupted. This was never about reconnecting. It was an execution. A way to make it clear to me that I am no longer welcome in your lives. That my place is outside where I cannot embarrass you. Marcus cleared his throat. Mrs. Patricia, there are customers waiting for this table. Would you like me to escort them to the exit? Jessica glared at him. You cannot kick us out. We were paying customers. Actually, Marcus said with a cold smile. The check was processed half an hour ago. You are no longer customers. You are people who are disturbing the atmosphere of this establishment. And Mrs. Patricia has every right to ask you to leave. Jessica's father puffed out his chest. This is ridiculous. We are going to sue for. For what? I asked, crossing my arms. For treating my staff well. For owning my own business. For defending myself from humiliation. I suggest you think very carefully before you threaten legal action. I have very good lawyers. And I have proof of every word you said tonight. This restaurant has security cameras in every corner. Audio and video. That shut him up immediately. Jessica turned even paler, if that was possible. But do not worry. I continued. I have no intention of using that footage against you unless you force me to. Unless you try to damage my reputation or cause me problems. Then yes, those recordings will become very public. And let me tell you, social media is not kind to people who humiliate elderly mothers in public. You are not elderly. Derek muttered miserably.
To them I was.
I replied, gesturing to Jessica's parents. To them I was just the poor old lady who did not even deserve a plate of food. Jessica's mother finally found her voice, though it was shaky. We never wanted it to go this far. We thought we were protecting our daughter, our granddaughter. Protecting them from what? I asked. From a grandmother who loves them. From a woman who only wanted to be part of their lives. You were not protecting anyone. You were feeding your own sense of superiority. Jessica, seeing that everything was lost, tried one last approach. Her voice became soft, almost pleading. Patricia, I know things got out of control tonight, but think about Emma. Think about your granddaughter. Do you really want to keep her away from you because of this? It was the wrong move. The absolute wrong thing to say. Do I want to keep her away from me? I repeated. My voice was dangerously low. Jessica, you were the one who said Emma needed to spend time with people who could add value. That I was not good enough for her. That my experiences were not enriching. I am not the one pushing her away. You are. Jessica opened her mouth to protest, but I continued before she could speak. And now that you know I have money, now that you know I have connections and resources, suddenly you want me to think about my granddaughter. Suddenly I am good enough to be in her life. But it does not work that way. My relationship with Emma is not a bargaining chip you can use based on your convenience. She loves you, Derek said desperately. She asks about you all the time. She makes drawings for you. She misses you. I felt a sharp pain in my heart.
Emma.
My sweet 5-year-old granddaughter with her dark curly hair and her bright laugh. The girl who called me Grandma Trish and fell asleep in my arms while I read her stories. Walking away from her would be like ripping my own heart out. But staying, allowing this to continue, would be teaching her that abuse is okay. That unconditional love means accepting humiliation. And that was a lesson I refused to teach her. I miss her too. I admitted. My voice broke slightly. I miss her every day. But I will not allow her to grow up in an environment where she learns it is okay to mistreat people based on their apparent social status. I will not let her learn from her mother that cruelty is acceptable if the victim seems powerless.
Please.
Derek begged, moving closer to me. Do not punish all of us for my mistakes. Emma is innocent in all this. I know, I said softly. And that is precisely why I cannot allow her to be exposed to this kind of behavior any longer. If you want me to be part of her life again, you are going to have to prove to me that you have changed. And I do not mean changed because you now know I have money. I mean a real, deep change in how you treat people. Marcus discreetly cleared his throat again. Mrs. Patricia, we really need to clear this area. There is a 10 o'clock reservation, and it is almost time. I nodded, grateful for the interruption. This conversation was draining every bit of energy I had left. You are right, I said, looking at each of them one last time. It is time for you all to go. And then what? Derek asked, his voice broken. You just erase us from your life after everything.
No.
I replied. You erase me from yours tonight. I am just respecting your decision. But we said terrible things because we did not know. Jessica insisted, panic in her voice. If we had known the truth. That is exactly the problem. I interrupted. That your behavior depends on what you think someone can offer you. That is not respect. That is opportunism. Jessica's father stepped forward, trying to regain some dignity. Look, obviously we all made mistakes tonight, but we are reasonable people. We can reach some kind of agreement. An agreement. I almost laughed at the audacity. What kind of agreement are you proposing? We pretend nothing happened in exchange for what? Access to my money, my connections, my resources. That is not it, he said quickly. But his expression betrayed him.
It was exactly that.
I will tell you what I am going to do, I announced, straightening up. I am going to give you time. Time to think about what you did. Time to reflect on what kind of people you want to be. And time to decide if you truly value people for who they are or only for what you can get from them. How much time? Derek asked anxiously. As long as it takes. I answered. It could be a month. It could be 6 months. It could be never. That is entirely up to you. Jessica made a sound of frustration. That is not fair. You cannot just leave us hanging like this. Not fair. I repeated. My voice rose slightly. You know what is not fair, Jessica? Inviting someone to dinner and denying them food. Deliberately humiliating your mother-in-law in front of your family. Telling a grandmother she is not good enough for her own grandchild. That is what is not fair. She shrank back, speechless for the first time all night.
Now,
I said, gesturing toward the exit. It is time for you to go. Marcus will escort you to the door. Marcus stepped forward, professional but firm. This way, please. Derek made one last attempt. Mom, please. I love you. I have always loved you. I made a terrible, unforgivable mistake, but you have to believe me when I say I am sorry. I looked at him. This man, who had been my entire world for more than 3 decades. I saw the tears in his eyes, the desperation on his face. And part of me, that maternal part that never dies, wanted to comfort him, wanted to hold him and tell him everything would be okay. But another part of me, the part that had been trampled tonight, the part that deserved dignity and respect, held firm. Love without respect is not love. I said finally. It is dependence. It is manipulation. It is convenience. And I have spent my whole life confusing one for the other. But tonight you taught me the difference. I can learn. He insisted. I can be better.
give me a chance.
I already gave you every chance in the world. I replied. I gave you my youth. I gave you my money. I gave you my time. I gave you my unconditional love. And you chose to use me as a stepping stone and then kick me aside when you thought you did not need me anymore. The words were harsh, but they were true. And they needed to be said. Jessica's mother grabbed her daughter's arm. Let us go, dear. We have caused enough of a scene for one night.
But Mom,
Jessica protested weakly. We can fix this. Not tonight. Her mother said, pulling her toward the exit. Definitely not tonight. Jessica's father followed his wife and daughter. But not before giving me one last look that mixed resentment with something like reluctant respect. Derek was the last one to move. He dragged his feet like a punished child. He stopped at the entrance and turned back to me one last time.
can I at least call you?
Send messages. Anything. I considered the question.
Part of me wanted to say yes.
To keep that line of communication open. But I knew if I did, we would fall right back into the same patterns. He would apologize. I would forgive. And nothing would really change. When you are ready to have a real conversation, I said. When you are ready to make real changes and not just say what you think I want to hear, then you can contact me.
But not before.
How will I know when I am ready? He asked. You will know. I replied simply. When you can look at what happened tonight and fully understand, without excuses or justifications, the depth of the damage you caused. When you can recognize that the problem was not that you did not know I had money, but that you believed it was acceptable to treat me that way in the first place. When you reach that point of understanding, then you will be ready. He nodded slowly, tears streaming down his face. I love you, Mom. I love you too. I admitted. And it was true. That is why this hurts so much. That is why I need this to mean something. That is why I cannot just forgive and forget as if nothing happened. Marcus gently touched Derek's shoulder. Sir, please. I need to ask you to leave now. Derek nodded, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. He walked toward the door, his shoulders slumped, completely defeated. I watched them all leave, one by one, until they disappeared into the night. The restaurant was silent for a moment. Then slowly, as if someone had pressed play on a pause button, conversations resumed. Silverware clinked against plates. Wine was poured. Life went on. Marcus walked over to me, his expression concerned. Mrs. Patricia, are you all right?
Do you need to sit down?
Although I suppose you have had enough of sitting with just water for one night. Despite everything, I let out a small laugh. A tired laugh, but a genuine one. I am fine, Marcus, I said, touching his arm gratefully. Or, at least I will be eventually. He nodded with understanding. What you did tonight was brave. Difficult but brave. And, if I may say so, absolutely necessary. Do you think I was too harsh? I asked. Even after everything that happened, part of me was still looking for validation. Still questioning if I had done the right thing. Marcus shook his head firmly. Mrs. Patricia, I have worked for you for 12 years. I have watched you build this business from nothing. I have seen you treat every employee with dignity, pay fair wages when you could have paid less, give chances to people other businesses would reject. You are one of the most generous and kind-hearted people I know. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But I have also seen you sacrifice too much. Work double shifts so you could send money to your son. Skip your own salary increases to keep menu prices affordable for customers. Live modestly while building wealth you never enjoyed. And I always wondered why. Tonight, I finally understood. You were testing something. And sadly you got your answer. His words resonated deeply because they were true. All the truth I had not dared to admit even to myself. I was not harsh, I said, finishing his thought. I was fair. There is a difference. Exactly. Marcus agreed. And if I may offer some personal advice, I think you need to go home. Have a cup of tea.
Rest.
Tonight was intense. I looked around the restaurant. Tables were full again. The quiet hum of conversations had returned to normal. It was like the last hour had been a suspended moment in time, a parenthesis that was now closed. But for me, nothing would ever be the same. You are right, I said finally. I am going home. You will handle closing tonight. Of course, ma'am. As always. I walked to my office in the back of the restaurant. A small but cozy space with an old wooden desk, shelves full of cookbooks and recipe notebooks, and photos on the walls. Photos of the restaurant's opening day, of special events, of my team. And yes, there were some photos of Derek too. Derek graduating from college. Derek at his wedding. Derek holding newborn Emma. I picked up one of the photos. The one from his college graduation. His smile was huge and proud. I was beside him, my hands on his shoulders, smiling too. We looked happy. We looked like a real family. I wondered when exactly it had all fallen apart. Was it gradual? Were there signs I ignored? Or was it sudden, a change I did not see coming? Probably a little of both. I placed the photo back on the shelf and grabbed my purse. I turned off the office lights and walked out the back door. The one that led to the private parking lot where I kept my car. It was nothing flashy. Just a reliable 7-year-old sedan. Another example of my choice to live modestly despite having the means to do otherwise. The cold night air hit my face. I took a deep breath, letting it fill my lungs,
Cleansing me somehow.
The sky was clear, full of stars that sparkled like tiny reminders that the world was bigger than my pain. I drove home in silence. No music, no radio, just me and my thoughts. I thought about Derek when he was little. How he used to hug me tight and tell me that when he grew up he would buy me a big house. I thought about all the times I sacrificed my own needs for his. The years of hard work. The sleepless nights. The skipped meals so he could eat. And I thought about how, despite all of that, I had ended up sitting in my own restaurant watching him eat lobster while he gave me only water. I arrived at my apartment. The same small but comfortable apartment where I had lived for 17 years. 2 bedrooms. A modest kitchen. A living room with old but comfortable furniture. Jessica had asked why I lived like this if I had so much money. The answer was simple. This place was mine. I had earned it. And I did not need to prove anything to anyone. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea. I sat on the couch. And finally, I let the tears come. I cried for the relationship I had lost. I cried for my granddaughter, who I probably would not see for a long time. I cried for the mother I had been, so dedicated that I had forgotten to teach my son the most important lesson of all, that a person's worth is not measured in dollars. But I also cried with relief. Because after years of carrying the weight of being invisible, of being taken for granted, I had finally stood up for myself. I had finally said enough. My phone buzzed. A text message from Derek. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. Mom, I know you asked for space, but I need you to know that I am sorry. I am truly sorry. Not because of your money. Not because of your restaurants. But because I forgot who you were to me. Because I forgot everything you did. Because I let you sit there with no food while I ate like you did not matter. I am going to work on myself. I am going to be better. And someday I hope I can prove it to you. I love you. I read the message 3 times. The words sounded sincere. But words always sound sincere in the heat of the moment after being caught. True change would show itself with time. With actions. Not with panicked text messages sent an hour after being exposed. I did not reply. Not yet. Instead, I opened my photo gallery and looked for pictures of Emma, my sweet granddaughter, smiling in her yellow dress at her last birthday, holding the grocery store cake I had brought her, the one that had apparently caused such embarrassment. But in the photo, she looked radiant.
Happy. Loved.
That was what mattered. Not the price of the cake. Not the brand of the dress. But the love behind the gesture. And if there was one thing tonight had taught me, it was this. Love without respect is not enough. Sacrifice without recognition is not noble. It is self-destructive. And teaching people to walk all over you does not make them better. It only makes you smaller. I leaned back on the couch, holding my cup of tea, and stared at the ceiling. I thought about the future.
What would I do now?
What would life be like without that toxic family dynamic consuming my energy? And for the first time in years, I felt something like hope. Maybe I would use more of my money on myself. That trip to Greece, I had always wanted to take. Those pottery classes, I was interested in. Maybe I would renovate this apartment. Not because I needed to impress anyone, but because I deserved it. Maybe I would invest more in my other restaurants. Expand the business. Maybe I would start a foundation to help single mothers struggling just like I had. The possibilities were endless. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like my life belonged to me again. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from an unknown number. I opened it curiously. Mrs. Patricia, this is David Chun from the restaurant tonight. Table 18. I witnessed what happened with your family. I just wanted to say that what you did was extraordinary. The respect you showed for yourself, the dignity with which you handled the situation, was inspiring. My wife and I are regular customers, but after tonight we are admirers. Thank you for reminding us that standing up for yourself is not cruelty. It is self-love. I read the message twice, feeling something warm expand in my chest. A stranger. Someone who owed me nothing. Had taken the time to find my contact information and send me words of encouragement. I replied briefly, "Thank you. Your words mean more than you can imagine." And it was true, because in the midst of all the pain, all the confusion, all the loss, that one small message reminded me of something important. I had done the right thing. I finished my tea and went to my bedroom. I changed into comfortable pajamas, washed my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a 62-year-old woman. A woman with hard-earned wrinkles. With tired but still bright eyes. With gray hair I had stopped coloring years ago. I saw a survivor. A fighter. A woman who had built empires while others underestimated her. A woman who had finally learned that her worth did not depend on anyone else's validation. You know your place, I said to my reflection, remembering Derek's cruel words. And your place is wherever you decide it is. I got into bed, turned off the light, closed my eyes. Tomorrow would be another day. There would be decisions to make, paths to choose, wounds to heal. But for tonight, I had done enough. I had defended my dignity. I had reclaimed my power. I had shown that some people spend their lives learning to know their place, while others learn to own it. And I, finally, after a lifetime of sacrifice and silence, was the owner of mine. The next morning I woke up to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. For a moment, I forgot what had happened the night before. Then it all came rushing back. The restaurant, the lobster, the water glass, the revelation. I reached for my phone. 17 missed calls. 23 text messages. All from Derek and Jessica. I did not open any of them. Instead, I got up, made myself breakfast, and sat at my small kitchen table. Real breakfast. Scrambled eggs.
Toast.
Fresh fruit.
Coffee.
I ate slowly, savoring every bite. When was the last time I had taken the time to actually enjoy a meal? To not rush through it on my way to work or while worrying about Derek or while trying to save every penny.
My phone rang.
Derek calling. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again.
Jessica this time.
Voicemail. Again.
Derek.
Voicemail. After the fifth call, I turned my phone off completely. I needed silence. I needed space. I needed time to process everything that had happened. I spent the morning doing things I never did. I took a long bath. I read a book I had been meaning to read for months. I sat by my window and watched the world go by. It was peaceful. Quiet.
Mine.
Around noon, I turned my phone back on. The messages and calls had continued. But there was one message that caught my attention. From Marcus. Mrs. Patricia, I hope you rested well. I wanted to let you know that several customers from last night have called this morning. They wanted to make sure you were okay. Mr. Chin even made a reservation for next week and specifically requested to speak with you. I think what happened last night resonated with more people than you realize. You are not alone in this. I smiled. Marcus always knew the right thing to say. I also noticed a message from an old friend. Someone I had not spoken to in years. Apparently word had spread fast. Patricia, I heard about what happened at your restaurant last night. I am so sorry you had to go through that, but also so proud of how you handled it. If you need someone to talk to, I am here. Always. And another. And another. People I had lost touch with over the years because I had been so focused on Derek, on working, on surviving. They were all reaching out now. It was overwhelming in the best way possible. But there was still no message I wanted to send back.
Not yet.
I spent the afternoon going through old photo albums. Pictures of Derek as a baby, as a toddler, as a young boy, before his father left, when life was simpler, when love felt uncomplicated. What had I done wrong? Where had I failed?
But then I stopped myself. No.
I had not failed. I had loved. I had sacrificed. I had given everything. Derek's choices were his own. His cruelty was his own. His need to please Jessica and her family at my expense was his own. I could not carry that burden anymore. That evening, I did something I had not done in years. I got dressed up. Really dressed up. I put on makeup. Did my hair. Wore a beautiful dress I had bought years ago but never had an occasion to wear. And I went to dinner. At one of my other restaurants. The one across town that specialized in Italian food. When I walked in, the staff recognized me immediately. They greeted me warmly, seated me at the best table, brought me wine and appetizers. And for the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt valued, appreciated,
seen.
I ate a wonderful meal. Pasta with fresh tomatoes and basil. Tiramisu for dessert. I drank wine. I talked with the staff. I laughed. I was alive. Really alive. Not just surviving, but actually living. When I got home that night, I felt lighter. Like a weight I had been carrying for decades had finally been lifted. I checked my phone one more time before bed. More messages from Derek. From Jessica. Apologies. Promises. Begging. And one from Derek's phone, but the words were clearly from Emma. Voice to text from a 5-year-old. Grandma Trish, I miss you so much. Please come see me. I made you a new drawing of flowers. I love you. My heart broke all over again.
Emma.
My sweet, innocent Emma. Caught in the middle of all this. I wanted to reply. To tell her I loved her too. That I missed her. That none of this was her fault. But I knew if I opened that door even a crack, Derek and Jessica would use it. They would manipulate the situation. Use Emma as leverage. So instead I saved the message.
Put my phone down.
And made myself a promise. I would see Emma again. But only when the circumstances were right. When I could see her without being subjected to abuse. Without having to accept crumbs from Derek and Jessica's table. Emma deserved a grandmother who was strong. Who stood up for herself. Who showed her that love and respect go hand in hand. And that was exactly what I would be. The weeks that followed were strange. Liberating but also painful. Derek continued calling and texting. His messages evolved from panicked apologies to angry accusations to bargaining to depression. I watched him cycle through all the stages of grief over our relationship. Jessica's messages were more calculated. She tried every angle. Sympathy,
Guilt.
logic. She even had her mother reach out to me. I ignored them all.
But I did not ignore my life.
For the first time in decades, I focused on myself. I hired a financial advisor to help me organize my investments better. I discovered I had even more money than I thought. Enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life without working another day. But I loved my work, so I kept going, but differently. I promoted Marcus to partner at my flagship restaurant. I gave raises to staff who had been loyal for years. I created a scholarship fund for children of single mothers. I traveled. Just small trips at first. A weekend in the mountains. A few days at the beach. Places I had always wanted to go but never made time for. I reconnected with old friends. Made new ones. Joined a book club. Started taking painting classes like I had always wanted. I was building a life. A real life. Not one centered around someone else's needs and wants but my own. And it felt incredible. 2 months after that terrible dinner, I received a letter. Not a text. Not an email. An actual handwritten letter. It was from Derek. I almost threw it away without opening it. But something made me hesitate. So I opened it.
Mom.
I know you told me not to contact you until I really understood what I did wrong. I have spent the last 2 months in therapy. Individual therapy and marriage counseling with Jessica. I am not writing this to ask you to forgive me. I do not deserve that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I am writing this because I finally understand. It was never about the money. It was never about you not telling us you were successful. It was about me treating you as less than human because I thought you had less than me. I treated you the way Jessica's family treats people they consider beneath them. And I did it to my own mother, the woman who gave up everything for me. I am ashamed. I am disgusted with myself. I look at Emma, and I think about how I would feel if someone treated her the way I treated you. And it makes me physically sick. Jessica and I are separated. Not because of you. Because of me. Because I finally realized that I have become someone I do not recognize. Someone I do not want to be. I am not asking you to take me back into your life. I am not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I am trying, really trying, to be better, to be the man you raised me to be. I love you. I am sorry. And I understand if you never want to see me again.
Derek.
I read the letter 3 times. I did not know if it was genuine. I did not know if he really understood or if this was just another manipulation tactic. But it was different than the texts and calls. It felt more real, more thoughtful. I folded the letter carefully and put it in a drawer. I was not ready to respond. But I was not ready to throw it away either. Another month passed. I received occasional updates from mutual acquaintances. Derek and Jessica were indeed separated. He had moved out of their condo. He was still going to therapy. He had apparently told his boss that he did not want the promotion if it came from Jessica's family connections, that he wanted to earn it on his own merit. Whether that was true or performative, I did not know. But it was something. Then one evening I was at my restaurant, the main one where everything had happened, when Marcus came to find me. Mrs. Patricia, there is someone here to see you. He is asking if you have a few minutes.
Who?
Your son. My heart jumped. I had not seen Derek in 3 months. 3 months of silence. Of healing. Of building myself back up. Was I ready for this? Where is he? In the waiting area by the entrance. He says he will understand if you do not want to see him. He just wanted to try. I took a deep breath. Tell him. I paused. Tell him I will give him 15 minutes. In my office. Not in the dining room. Marcus nodded and left. I went to my office and waited. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking slightly. A few minutes later there was a soft knock on the door.
Come in.
Derek opened the door slowly. He looked different.
Thinner. Tired.
His eyes were red like he had not been sleeping well. He stood in the doorway, not presuming to come in without permission.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Derek.
Can I?
He gestured to the chair across from my desk. I nodded. He sat down carefully. His hands folded in his lap. He looked nervous.
Scared even. Good.
Thank you for seeing me, he said quietly. I know I do not deserve it. I said nothing. I just waited. He took a deep breath. I am not going to waste your time with more apologies. I have said sorry 1,000 times and words do not mean anything anymore. So, I wanted to tell you what I have actually done.
Go on.
I left Jessica. Officially filed for separation last week. I realized that I cannot be the person I want to be while I am with someone who brings out the worst in me. That must have been difficult.
It was. It is.
But it is necessary. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I have been in therapy twice a week for 3 months, working through why I valued status and money and appearances more than I valued you. More than I valued myself, actually. And what have you learned? That I was trying to prove something. To prove that I was not the poor kid from a broken home anymore. That I had made it. That I was worthy of respect. And in doing that, I became exactly the kind of person who does not deserve respect at all. I felt something shift in my chest. These were not empty words. This was real reflection. He continued, his voice breaking slightly. I realized that I was angry at you. At me. For what? For not being rich when I was growing up. For not being able to give me what other kids had. For embarrassing me with your second-hand clothes and your old car and your modest life. And I never dealt with that anger. I never acknowledged how unfair and cruel it was. So it festered. And when I met Jessica and her family with all their money and status, I thought I had finally escaped. But I was really just running away from my own shame about where I came from. He wiped his eyes. And the worst part is that you did give me everything. You gave me love and sacrifice and opportunities. You put me through college. You supported every dream I had. And I repaid you by being ashamed of you. By treating you like you were nothing. I felt tears forming in my own eyes now. But I held them back. Why are you telling me this, Derek? Because you asked me to really understand before I contacted you. And I think I finally do. It was not about you not telling me you were rich. It was about me being the kind of person who would treat you differently based on that information. It was about me needing wealth and status to show you basic human decency. To show my own mother respect. What about Emma? I asked. The question I had been afraid to voice. His face crumpled. I miss her so much. I have her 2 weekends a month. Jessica is fighting me for primary custody. And I know I do not deserve to ask this. But Emma misses you too. She asks about you constantly. She cries for you. I felt my heart breaking. Are you using her to manipulate me? He looked up sharply. No. God, no. If anything, I am telling you that you can see her without having to see me. I will arrange it. I will drop her off and leave. Whatever you need. She is innocent in all of this, and she should not lose her grandmother because her father is a terrible person. I appreciated that. More than he knew. I need time. I said finally. Time to think about all of this. Time to decide what I want. I understand. He stood up. Thank you for seeing me, Mom. Thank you for listening. I do not deserve it, but I am grateful anyway. He walked toward the door. Then stopped and turned back. One more thing. I enrolled in community college. I am taking business classes. I want to learn what you know. About building something real from nothing. About earning respect instead of buying it or marrying into it. I do not know if I will ever be as successful as you, but I want to try. I want to make you proud. With that, he left. I sat in my office for a long time after he was gone. Processing. Thinking. Feeling. Was it enough? Was this change real or temporary? Could I trust him again? I did not have those answers yet. But for the first time in 3 months, I felt something other than anger and hurt when I thought about my son. I felt hope. Cautious. Fragile. But hope nonetheless. A week later, I made a decision. I called Derek. He answered on the first ring. Hello.
It is me, Mom.
His voice was filled with emotion. I want to see Emma. This Saturday. You can drop her off at my apartment at 10 in the morning and pick her up at 4. You will not come inside. You will not try to talk to me. Just drop her off and leave. Of course. Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This does not mean I have forgiven you, Derek. This means I will not punish Emma for your mistakes. I understand. And if you are serious about changing, really serious, you will prove it with time, with actions, not with words. I will. I promise I will. We will see. I hung up. That Saturday morning at exactly 10 o'clock, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Emma standing there holding a drawing and a huge smile on her face. Grandma Trish. She launched herself at me, and I caught her, holding her tight, breathing in her little girl smell of strawberry shampoo and crayons. Behind her, Derek stood at a distance. He met my eyes, mouthed thank you, and left without another word. I closed the door, and Emma and I spent the most wonderful day together. We baked cookies. We read books. We watched her favorite cartoon. We colored. She showed me the drawing she had made. It was of the two of us, holding hands, surrounded by flowers. I love you, Grandma Trish, she said as I tucked her into my bed for an afternoon nap. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. As I watched her sleep, I made another decision. I was not doing this for Derek. I was not even doing this for Emma, not entirely. I was doing this for me, because I deserved to have my granddaughter in my life. Because I deserved joy and love and family that was healthy and real. Derek would have to earn his way back.
Slowly, carefully,
with actions over time. But Emma was mine. And no one could take that away from me ever again. The months continued to pass. Derek kept his word. He dropped Emma off every other Saturday morning and picked her up every evening. He never tried to come inside. Never tried to have conversations beyond logistics. But I watched him. From my window. I saw him taking classes at the community college he mentioned. I heard from mutual friends that he had turned down the promotion that came from Jessica's connections and was working his way up legitimately. I saw that he had moved into a modest apartment. Not the luxury condo. Something simple. Something he could afford on his own merit. He was trying. Really trying. 6 months after our conversation in my office, he asked if we could talk again. Just for a few minutes. When he dropped off Emma, I agreed. We stood in my building's lobby. Awkward. Distant. But there.
I wanted to show you something.
He pulled out his phone and showed me his grades from his business classes. All A's. I am learning, Mom. Really learning. How to run a business ethically. How to treat employees with respect. How to build something real. That is good, Derek.
And I.
He hesitated. I have been saving money. From my actual salary. Not from Jessica. Not from her family. My money. And I want to invest it in something meaningful. Maybe start a small business someday. Nothing big, but something I build myself. What kind of business? I do not know yet, but I want to learn from the best.
He looked at me.
If you would be willing to teach me. I felt something catch in my throat.
Teach you?
Not as your son asking for a handout, but as someone who respects what you have built and wants to learn how you did it. I will work for you. In any capacity. Washing dishes. Bussing tables. Whatever you need. I just want to learn. I studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation, of ulterior motives. But I saw only sincerity, humility, a genuine desire to change. Let me think about it, I said finally. He nodded. No pressure. No expectations.
Just.
If you ever decide you want to, I will be ready. Emma came running down the stairs at that moment, breaking the tension.
Daddy.
Daddy, I made cookies with Grandma. Derek's face lit up.
Did you?
Are they good?
The best.
I helped stir, and everything. He picked her up and hugged her, then looked at me over her shoulder.
Thank you,
he mouthed. I nodded. As I watched them leave, I realized something. Forgiveness was not a destination. It was a journey. A long, slow journey of rebuilding trust. Of seeing change sustained over time. Of letting go of hurt piece by piece. I was not there yet. But maybe, just maybe, I was on the path. 1 year after that terrible dinner, I made a decision. I called Derek. Told him to meet me at my flagship restaurant. The one where it all happened. He arrived exactly on time, looking nervous. I led him to my office, sat him down, and slid a folder across the desk. "What is this?" he asked. "A job offer." He opened the folder. His eyes widened. "You want me to work here?" "As an assistant manager trainee. If you are serious about learning the restaurant business, then learn it properly. From the ground up. The pay is modest. The hours are long. The work is hard. But if you prove yourself, there is room to grow."
Mom,
I do not know what to say. Say yes or say no. But know this. If you take this job, you work for Marcus. Not for me. You get no special treatment. No shortcuts. No nepotism. You earn every promotion, every raise, every bit of respect. Just like everyone else. Just like I did. I understand. And if you ever treat another employee the way you treated me that night, you are fired immediately. No second chances. I understand. He said it firmly. I accept. All of it. Good. You start Monday morning. 6 a.m. He stood up. Shook my hand formally. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mrs. Patricia." I almost smiled. He was learning. Over the next year, Derek worked harder than I had ever seen him work. He showed up early, stayed late, did every job without complaint, mopped floors, cleaned bathrooms, took out trash. The staff tested him, gave him the worst tasks, the hardest shifts, watched to see if he would break, if he would use his relationship with me to get special treatment. He never did. He learned. He grew. He became good at the work. Really good. And slowly, very slowly, our relationship began to heal. Not back to what it was. It would never be that again. Too much had been broken. But into something new. Something built on mutual respect instead of obligation. On earned trust instead of assumed love. We had dinner together sometimes. At the restaurant. As colleagues first. As family second. Emma was always there. Our bridge. Our reminder of what really mattered. And one evening as we sat together, the three of us, eating a meal I had cooked myself, Derek looked at me and said something that took my breath away. "I am proud to be your son, Mom. Not because of your money or your success, but because of who you are, your strength, your dignity, the way you stood up for yourself when no one else would. You taught me the most important lesson of my life that night. And it cost you everything to teach it, but I finally learned it." "What lesson?" I asked softly. "That respect is not given based on what someone has. It is earned based on who they are. And you're the most worthy of respect person I know." Tears rolled down my cheeks. The first tears I had cried in front of him since that terrible night. Emma looked up from her pasta. "Why is Grandma crying, Daddy?" "Because, sometimes," I said, wiping my eyes and smiling. "Sometimes people cry when they are happy too."
"Are you happy, Grandma?"
I looked at my son. This imperfect broken man who had hurt me so deeply, but who had fought his way back. Who had earned his way back. I looked at my granddaughter. This innocent, beautiful child who loved me unconditionally. I looked around at my restaurant. This empire I had built with nothing but hard work and determination. And I realized something. Yes, sweetheart. I am happy. I am finally truly happy. Because I had learned my own lesson that night. That knowing your place is not about accepting where others try to put you. It is about claiming the space you deserve. Standing in your worth. Refusing to be diminished. And teaching the next generation to do the same. I had found my place. Not at someone else's table begging for scraps. But at my own table. On my own terms. Surrounded by people who truly valued me. And that made all the difference.